Portage in Maine is at the heart of Canada in Winnipeg, Manitoba, but so much is unknown about the heart of Canada because so much focus in the media and through politicians is on the big cities, Vancouver, Montreal, and Toronto. But what about Winnipeg? What about Manitoba? What about the heartland of Canada? Who better to talk about it than veteran television, radio broadcaster, social media influencer, a blogger, longtime Manitoba resident, and someone I'm proud to call a friend, Rick Loewen. Rick, how are you?
Very good. How are you, Jimmy?
Good. Manitoba is in a lot of ways a happening place. Stories about spending billions to upgrade Churchill and the Portlands to ship natural gas to Europe and other things. Give the people of Canada an update. Where are we in the state of Manitoba in 2026?
Oh, boy. Great question. By the way, I used to work with a mutual friend, Johnny Bourdignon, who said that basically in the GTA area where you are, nobody west of Timmins knows that Manitoba exists. So I'm happy that we're at least figuratively, if not literally, on the map with you guys. That's great.
Yeah, no, please. And that's why we're doing it, Rick.
Yeah. So where are we? Well, you mentioned Churchill. That's, fingers crossed. That could. I was just golfing with a friend of mine a couple of days ago, and he said, not in our lifetime, but down the road, that is going to be such a game. He feels it's going to be such a game changer. What with climate change and the fact that it's weeks, days every year that port is opened up. Anyway, so that's certainly one thing. But where are we? Well, we can talk about. You want to talk politically? You want to talk socially? You want to talk culturally? Where do you want to go with this?
Well, I'll start politically, Rick, because they just had a national poll of the approval ratings of premiers across the country. In Ontario, Doug Ford is rock bottom at barely registering at 20%. Yeah. And Wab Kinew is leader of the pack at 62%. What is it about Wab Kinew that has really touched the hearts and minds of so many people in the province that he has such a high approval rating?
So there's a few things. One is he's just a mensch, okay? He's like the kind of guy you want to just go have a beer with. There was a kind of a viral video about a year ago where he helped a woman change a flat tire. He didn't know he was being videoed. Okay, whatever. But he got out of his car and he helped this woman change a flat tire. Of course, being Indigenous, Winnipeg having the most Indigenous population in any city in Canada. It's a huge boon, but it's also a huge an issue. 90% of our foster kids are Native. So he's just a good guy. I will counter that by saying in the however long he's been in office, he hasn't really improved anything. And I don't mean that in a bad way. A lot of the problems are unfixable healthcare. Every province is trying to poach doctors and nurses from every other province. I don't know whether that's fixable, but that's one thing. But his coolness, you saw the clip of him. No Boozma until there's Kuzma or whatever that one was, right? And and then making fun of Trump with the executive orders and stuff. So people kind of like his good naturedness. He also, it's a little bit like the Liberals and the Conservatives federally. Right now, according to the polls, Carney's doing well and Poilievre really isn't making a dent. And it's a little bit like that here because we had Pallister for a long time and then Stephenson. And Stephenson was sort of the Cruella de Vil version of a politician. Like she was almost, it was a feature, not a bug, her cruelty. And so when we had a provincial election and one of the big issues was searching landfills for these, there was a few Indigenous women that had gone missing. And they were allegedly buried in the landfills. And she made it a platform plank to not search for them. And that was sort of, even though she was failing, that was the dagger, right? So he doesn't really have a lot of competition. And now Abi Khan, who you will know.
Very well, yes.
Yeah, absolutely. The famous CFLer, Abi Khan, is the conservative leader here in the province. And he is a little bit like Poilievre federally. He doesn't have a lot of traction right now. And ironically, I don't know if you know this, that Abi Khan, to become an MLA, he beat Willard Reeves in the by-election.
Oh, I didn't realize that. So CFL and CFL crime.
Yeah, isn't that? And one was Abi Khan conservative, but Willard Reeves liberal, and he barely won. It was really close. So it was kind of an interesting CFL legend MLA runoff. So it's pretty fascinating. And the Liberals, where Willard Reeves ran for, Liberals don't even register in this province. So that's not even a thing. So you've got NDP that are really holding the fort. And then you've got the Conservatives, and then the Liberals are kind of sort of a non-issue right now.
You touched upon healthcare and wait times, and it made national headlines a few months ago about, I believe it was a woman in a Winnipeg hospital in the waiting area for like 30 some hours who suffered catastrophic health issues. It's a problem in every province in the country. From a Manitoba standpoint, what is the big stumbling block to improving healthcare in those wait times?
It's the same as every province. It's the federal transfers. It's like, I don't, like I said, I don't know that problem is solvable. Every other province says, hey, we're recruiting nurses from other provinces, but every other province is trying to take our nurses and our doctors. One plus is that because of the situation in the States right now, there's a lot of nurses and doctors that are coming up from the States. I know in BC, I just saw a thing about 6 weeks ago. They've managed to poach quite a few doctors and nurses from, I think, Texas and Deep South. Those professionals aren't happy with the situation. But it's just the same thing all over. There's too many people, not enough services. You want to cut taxes or at least keep them level, but you want to increase services, impossible. So either you raise taxes, which no politician wants to do, or you don't get the services you want, which is generally what is happening.
I mean, for a lot of people in Ontario, I have family in the Maritimes. I have a daughter living in Alberta now. We always see the license plate friendly Manitoba. So it always shocks a lot of Canadians, Rick, when they see the crime rates in Winnipeg, in Manitoba, and the drug-related issues. Why is it so out of control in parts of Manitoba?
Okay, I have to be really careful here. You know, I'm a foster parent of a couple of Native kids. So
I do.
Notwithstanding, because we have, I think the latest poll was 110,000 Natives living in Winnipeg out of 800,000. So that's and most of them in the downtown area. So a lot of that crime is Indigenous on Indigenous, and that doesn't diminish it at all. I'm just saying that there's a real problem. You've got, and we could talk for hours, but I think we have about 63 reserves in Manitoba. A lot of them aren't, now they're being flooded. We just had torrential rainstorms about a week ago. A couple of them get flooded every year. They're in the wrong place. Some of them have been flooded on purpose because of our hydro. So they're in these isolated reserves and there's nothing to do. And so they come to Winnipeg and then there's nothing to do. So it's just, you can go all the way back to Jean Chrétien's white paper. You can really go back a long way if you want, but that certainly is like, so you ask about the crime. If I'm walking downtown Winnipeg, and I remember years ago when you and I were doing the Argos, we walked downtown. I don't ever feel unsafe. Neither does my wife. You can walk downtown, maybe not at 2 a.m, but in the evening, and we've got a thriving, you started this thing with Portage and Main. We just opened Portage and Main again to pedestrians after 40 years, I think.
Oh, fantastic.
So, yeah, it was closed and there was a mall underneath it. So you couldn't walk across Portage and Main, which a lot of us thought was really stupid. So they finally opened it up again. We've got the Winnipeg Gold Eyes in the AA. They play right downtown in a beautiful park. So there is a lot of good stuff happening downtown. But it's like any city, I mean, we always joke, my son and I went to Chicago a few years ago and my wife said, you need a money belt to hide your money? And I go, no, it's no more dangerous than Winnipeg. Just common sense, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, but sure. And then of course the homeless, right? That's a huge deal. We've got riverbanks and there's lots of camps and then they want to get rid of the homeless, but they have to go somewhere. So they just set up camp somewhere else, right?
You know what? And the reason I bring it up is I know Justin Trudeau talked about it in 2015, how he promised potable, clean drinking water for every Indigenous reservation in the country. As long as I can remember, as a young man, politicians have promised to help the Indigenous population. And having a Wab Kinew as premier helps, but federally, I'm still waiting for someone to do something tangible instead of just throwing money at the problem. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and if I could be, again, I have to be really careful, but because of our involvement with our kids, and my wife's been working for First Nations for the last 30 years, one of the problems is you can give there's a lot of very high functioning reserves. I was just in Kelowna a couple of weeks